Here we have list 2 for August 2nd, Shortcuts. This is an eclectic list, to say the least. I'm not quite sure what to make of it, but we definitely have some classic rock, we have some prog, we have some pure pop as well. All right, shall we crack into it? I've chosen this one to start. There are so many things wrong with this record, and then so many things that are right. Where do I start? I'm going to start with the name. The Black Man's Burden by Eric Burdon and War. You know, that is a pretty awful pun, and I like puns. All of this, of course, being probably considered a critique of Rudyard Kipling's The White Man's Burden, which had plenty of treatises against it. But The Black Man's Burden, Eric Burdon and War. There is he. There he is, Eric Burdon, born Newcastle upon Tyne. Of course, famously the lead singer of the Animals, House of the Rising Sun, and so on. In 1970, he was living in San Francisco, and he made friends with Lonnie Jordan and some of the folks who were in a soul rock band called War, and they made 2 records together. This being the second record, the first record being the, equally distasteful Eric Burdon declares war. Let's have a look at some else and the other things in this record. So have a look at that. That's the back sleeve, yeah. Kind of look at the inside. There you go. Man in various states of dishevelment, staring out over a field with his 2 naked women. Yeah. As it says here on the label, Far Out. This is a double record, and it's on the Liberty label. I'll just show you. There you go. So, what's to be said about naked women on a sleeve? I guess, there's plenty of examples of that from Hendrix and so on. So what's right about this record is the music. War are an incredible band. Lonnie Jordan and the folks are amazing. And there are 2 sides of music that are suites arranged around 2 big hits from the time. So, 60, 69, 70. So there's one that's arranged around the Moody Blues Nights in White Satin, and side 1, 14 minutes, arranged almost exclusively around the Rolling Stones' Paint It Black. And you know what? It's great. It's really, really good late 60s psychedelic rock. Really good, because Eric Burdon's voice is astonishing. I'm going to put in the email this week a link to a podcast that I listened to a few weeks, completely coincidentally, podcast called Side Opinions, where Lonnie Jordan actually appeared on the show, and he talked about his time with Eric Burdon, and he describes in a nice bit of detail just how much of a Looney Tune Eric Burdon is. But in one of his anecdotes, there's another very special guest that I will not spoil, but it is worth the price of entry, I promise you. So that record is rare as hen's teeth. Oh my God. So it's a lot. It costs a lot. But it is a very rare piece indeed. And in amongst all of the general weirdness is a great record. Albeit one that, if it had been culled from a double to a single, Man, it could have been a classic. Now, I've got two types of records here that are not necessarily really where shortcuts trades, but they're here for a reason. And I played both of them earlier, and they both sounded really good. I'm not sure which one to start with. I'm going to start with this. There's a big 80s focus, by the way, on the list this week. Look at this. Japan, the Singles, David Sylvian and the crew. In this case, Life in Tokyo, European Sun, State Line, The Unconventional, Quiet Life, I second that emotion. Not all of those are on the records, so some of those are quite rare, but this is utterly wonderful. It is pressed on translucent blue vinyl with a really large inner label. Can you see that? And as the reviews in Discogs somewhat surprisingly say, it sounds really good. I'm not quite sure how they did it, but they pulled it off. It's certainly a collector's item for anyone out there who likes that symphonic pop that was Japan. And then, in the same box, came this. Now, this one's missing, right? You can see that? Wham! Make It Big with Obi. Picture disc. But this is the picture disc. Wow. Look at that. There's how to make a picture disc. Never seen that before. Not sure I'll see it again, but there you go. The beauty of the blind box from Shibuya, Tokyo. You just never know what the hell there's going to be. There's a really nice insert with that as well. Of course, Make It Big. Let's just have a look at the track list here. Wake Me Up Before You Go Go. Everything She Wants. Like a Baby. Last Christmas. What a song that is. Freedom. Careless Whisper. I mean, it's almost like a greatest hits. It is. Maybe it is a greatest hits. I'm not sure. I don't know much about Wham. But I do know that is a lovely, another very collectible item. Now, I know a lot about the next record because it's on my shelf. This is my personal go-to copy of Medal by Pink Floyd. I've been asking the folks in Shibuya for a great copy for a while because they have sent me some pretty average copies and I've sent them back. This copy is in fantastic condition. There's only one word to talk about when you talk about Medal, and that is echoes. The whole of side 2 demands a quality piece of vinyl. This is the 1973 repress. It is, I think, better than the original Odeon press. I think it's pressed on better vinyl. And if you look at the comments, you will see there's a consensus around this. This is an amazing sounding vinyl. It is super quiet. But allied to that, Echoes is genuinely one of the great pieces of music in prog rock, bar none, without exception. It's an amazing piece of music, and I listen to it with my 11-year-old Finbar quite regularly, and we both get a lot out of it. There's another little quirk that I love about this particular pressing, EMS 80322. You have a magazine in it, and at the back of the magazine there's a little kind of calling card. Can you see it just there? I'm going to read some of it to you. It says, Medal, Pink Floyd Harvest. Pink Floyd's, not sure why it's pluralized, but it is. Pink Floyd's is the kind of music that sort of creeps up on you, starting softly, slowly, innocently, until all at once you're enmeshed in the most sensuous kind of rock music. It's basically instrumental, and rightly so, as all four members are master musicians. When vocals are used, as on A Pillow of Winds, they become striking counterpoints to the music. Standouts one of these days, and all 23 and a half minutes of echoes, both of which allow plenty of space for Dave Gilmour's superb guitar and Rick Wright's electronic organ. A real treat. That is a mixture of hyperbole and understatement that I think sums this record up to a T. You've got a song like Seamus and a song like Echoes. One is great, one is not. Anyway, I love metal. I think it's I do. Don't get me wrong. And whoever picks that up will be very, very happy. Now, not only did the Japanese love and adore Pink Floyd and press their records to extraordinary high quality, they also did the same with the band's solo records. Now, I had the pros and cons of Hitchhiking a few weeks back. Now, this one, still in the shrink wrap, you can probably still see that, is 1984's About Face by Dave Gilmour, which is, I think, by far and away his best solo album. It's his second record. He sounds energized. It's quite rocky. The production, the 80s production actually suits it. It still sounds, it's still got those key changes and things that sound Floydian. You will still on occasion go, oh yeah, that's Pink Floyd. But it's very, very pleasurable. And that is the Japanese first press. Now I've got a couple of kind of, from here on out, oh actually, that's not quite true. There's a couple of quirkies in here. But I'm going to talk about this very briefly. We know how wonderful this is. This is the Japanese second press from 1971. This is just a brilliant copy. This is also is it 71 or 73? This is the copy of Beggar's Banquet that I have on the London label. Hard cardboard gatefold with, of course, the wonderful picture of the banquet. It's hard to lay it down on what Stones record's the best. Suffice to say, Beggar's Banquet is in the mix. If you're not aware of Beggar's Banquet, Sympathy for the Devil, Street Fighting Man, and some deep cuts, including my personal favourite deep cut in the Rolling Stones canon, which is Stray Cat Blues. Charlie Watts rocks on that song. All right, now this record is somewhat controversial, but also somewhat amazing in that it is an entirely different mix of a classic record. Can you see it says 4-channel quadraphonic record? The Australian quadraphonic pressing of Dark Side of the Moon is it quite a different press to others, and I will talk about that in my upcoming video. But this record is the quadraphonic press of Santana's Abraxas, which is also a hard cardboard gatefold with the picture. It's kind of like a heat map picture of the band in the middle. This quadraphonic press gets extraordinary reviews, but it also comes with this, which I am going to fully fold out and share with you because I do think it's rather wonderful. It is a double-sided, effectively, there's a poster of the band, but on the flip side, is this kind of mirror image of the band, but also all the lyrics and some other bits and pieces. They only, as far as I'm aware, they only did this. There it is, Santana, in the quadraphonic press. I am not a massive Santana fan. Santana 3 is my personal favorite Santana record. But I do have this one. I think it sounds bloody good and is well worth exploring for those of you who like your Latin-influenced 70s rock. Now, this is about as far away from Latin influence as you get. This is the best of cream on a hard cardboard gatefold. What I like about this one is that the inside has got kind of one of these magazines and has some really cool pictures of 3 members of the band. And this pulls together all the best of their music in one really high quality pressing on the Polydor label. It's very, very fine indeed, and it weighs a ton. Okay, now a couple of anomaly records, and then we get into some classics. So, I think this is by far and away the most controversial record that we've had on the shortcuts list for a while, for a very strange reason. This is Alan Holdsworth's Velvet Darkness. Now, Alan Holdsworth was the guitarist in Soft Machine, and a rather wonderful guitarist he is too. This was his first solo record, and I can't quite pin down exactly what the story is, but he got the band together and they recorded a series of demos, and the record company went ahead and released those demos as the record, Velvet Darkness. Alan Holdsworth then pretty much declared that the record was a bootleg. He obviously refused to market it, kind of disowned it. And as is always the case, when, people think there's a smell, they kick up a stink. And so the critics and others just derided this record and said, yeah, it's rubbish. The thing is, I got a copy probably a year ago. I've played it, 10, 15 times over the last year. And I think it's bloody great. And I sent a note to folks in Shibuya saying, if you get another one, stick it in the box. Even if it sits in one of my crates for ages, I'm glad that it's there. I love the sleeve. And I do not understand the reviews of that record. I think it's really, really good. And, and worthy of a place on my record shelf. And so it makes the shortcuts list. Those of you who've been around shortcuts for a while know how much I adore Mark Bolan and T-Rex. One of my prized possessions is a UK first press of Electric Warrior. And I recorded numerous podcasts and I've been on the ABC talking about that very record. But this is the very best of Tyrannosaurus Rex. And on the back, you'll see the rather wonderful Mark Bolan, a couple of other members from the band. I think that's Steve Took, and I'm not sure who that is on the left. Produced by Tony Visconti, who of course went on to incredible fame, playing with and producing the David Bowie Berlin Trilogy and more, playing with them on Tin Machine. But the best of Tyrannosaurus Rex is the kind of folk pop music that the band made before they hit it big, before Metal Guru and Telegram Sam and the likes. And it's great. Of course it is. I mean, Mark Bolan, he's a genius. Before we get on to four genuine 80s classics, I got this 60s classic. I rarely get Sgt. Pepper with Obi. It is so tightly held and crazy expensive nearly all the time that I'm so glad I've got one at a reasonable price. This, I think it's the 1973 record. I always ask for this record because I think arguably the Beatles in mono is superior to stereo. But that's the best, if was certainly in the top two best stereo pressings that I'm aware of. I think it's very, very fine. And it is tough. I've never seen that Obi's got a tiny little nick on it as well. It's just super hard to get that record with an Obi. It's too tightly held. All right, I got four 80s classics. We have Dexy's Midnight Runners, Turaye. We have Toto, For, Rosanna, and Africa. Of course, Africa, including one of my all-time favourite lyrics. As sure as Kilimanjaro rises like Olympus above the Serengeti, I came to cure what's deep inside. That's so 80s, it hurts. And in that, anyway, listen to that song, and that lyric's incredible. The Human League, Dare, all of these are Japanese first presses, by the way. And finally, the Daddy, Michael Jackson's Thriller. Now, this is a fantastic copy. And of course, for those of you who haven't grabbed this yet, because it's definitely Shortcuts royalty, it's worth just reminding ourselves, A, it sounds amazing, but B, there are books and posters. Let me show you. This copy is such good shape, by the way. Let me grab one of the posters. How about this one? Now, why Michael Jackson got a tiger on his leg? Who knows? But, you know, he was odd back then. Odd all the way through. Thriller. Amazing. All right. There you have a very eclectic and hopefully intriguing list for you all. I will be sending out the price list 9 o'clock Wednesday evening, as always. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful week. Shortcuts, over and out.